we have told them many a time, they can destroy a man, but they cannot destroy this movement. We are more determined than ever that we're going to rid Natchez of all the racists, the bigots, the Ku Klux Klan.
An extraordinary look at the civil rights era through rare footage filmed more than 50 years ago.
Living in Natchez, everything was separated. Blacks was on one side, whites was on the other side.
You're America. We're not going to let them take over our country.
We used to have a saying, the police hand in hand, and that was real clear in Mississippi during that time.
I do.
A little-known black resistance group.
To see the Deacons out in front protecting demonstrations, leaders in the community.
A wave of racist murders.
Bomb slaying of civil rights leader Wharlest Jackson.
I heard the explosion in my mind. Like, what is that? I never heard anything like that before.
Claims that were never brought to justice.
The ongoing federal effort to resolve them.
The bill before Congress proposes the creation of a special FBI and the Justice Department.
The Till Act held the promise that we might get to the bottom of some of these cases that had never been solved.
And a family's search for answers.
My mind, even now, sometimes I can't even think of what happened.
Cold cases are really, really, really hard.
I relive this thing over and over again, hoping for some justice.
Now on Frontline, in collaboration with Retro Report, American Reconing.
This program contains mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Nearly 1,000 Negroes are marching silently through the center of Natchez, protesting the bomb-slaying Monday night of civil rights leader, father of five, Wharlest Jackson.
Jackson, an official of the local NAACP, had left his new job last night at the Armed Council.
My father looked out for the Black community in this town. And believe me, this community loved my father. He was just a god.
My father sacrificed his life so that we can have a better community and you don't eat. But will we ever get justice?
Been killing us here for 400 years.
Right. People, we aren't going nowhere. It's gonna be for all of us. Wake up, white people, before it's too late.
This is a close-knit community here in Natchez. As a kid, family like with me and my sisters, the girls were kind of talkative and whatnot, and I could take so much, but I want to get out and ride around the street on my bicycle and see what's going on around town. We had horses. Everybody in the community got food. You know what I mean? And we share like that out here. That particular time, my father held 3 jobs trying to supply the needs of white kids.
He was a good man, hard-working man.
My mom was a caregiver, and she was just a person that would do anything for you.
One of the jobs she had was at one of the largest antebellum homes in the city of Natchez as a cook.
That's all a lot of black people did. That and all. Even in Natchez, everything was separated. Blacks was on one side, whites was on the other side.
My mother and father tried to shield us from violence that was going on. A lot of violence was going on at that particular time.
This public hearing of the United States Commission on Civil Rights will now come to order.
There have been burnings, church burnings, and killings. Justice under law is not guaranteed for the Negro, for the white man.
Southwest Mississippi, Natchez and Concordia Parish in the 1960s were these sort of like this frontier region where people still lived by vegetarianism, and it had never been challenged. You had a population in this area. And that's the way things were.
I didn't really understand that my daddy was in the Klan. We were kind of made to go to some of the meetings. We actually, me and my brothers would deliver the flyers and stuff. We didn't really understand what was going on.
Firstly, emphatically, we are sirs defending our heritage and defending our beliefs.
My father's Wharlest Jr. His nickname Shawnee. When everybody first met him and they didn't know him, they'd think he was charming. You know, he charmed a lot of people, but he was really at home and hit me and beat us off for talking to black. We were not allowed. They thought we should send them back to Africa or kill them off.
The thing, probably more than anything else, was the fact that the blacks were looking for equal rights.
We are sick and tired. We are going through being bit by dogs. Some of them being shot down. Some of them being beat in jail. We are not fighting back, but we going on because there's nothing right here.
We hope to send into Mississippi this summer upwards of 1,000 teachers, ministers, lawyers, students to try and force, if possible, some real change in the state.
Those people have got these youngsters coming into Mississippi not knowing what the situation is. We are going to see to it that law and order is maintained Mississippi style.
The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People have united their hearts and minds in a massive voter registration drive. Each and every one of you that have registered in the last 10 days, please thank. Let's give it a
I remember when Mom and my dad was telling us they were forming the NAACP, they were going to be a part of it.
They started the NAACP back up with Charles Evers.
We're here to serve notice on all who have been brutal to us in the past. That your day is gone.
Charles Evers is the NAACP field director in Mississippi. The man who had the job before him was his brother, Medgar, killed in an ambush in Mississippi.
After they shot Medgar, I said, I'm going to Mississippi and kill every crack until they kill me. And my wife said, no, Charles, please. I said, yes, I am. At that time, you could carry guns, like I always do. You could carry guns.
You ever know?
Yeah, keep guns. I always keep guns.
Can you show me?
Well, that's no secret. I brought down my thugs from Chicago. I started killing white people on Lynch Street, where I finally took over. I sat there and knocked that way. This is the way Met was done. And that's when I went out to Bernard and Wharlest Jackson and George Metcalf to organize the NAACP branch in Natchez. Metcalf took on the presidency and just took on the office management. Wharlest Jackson, he was treasurer, and they became the leaders.
George Metcalf and Uncle Wharlest were very close. They would come in and get around the dining room table and start these discussions.
George was loud and Wharlest was quiet, but they both were forceful.
Tension started getting really high in Natchez when the NAACP started growing.
You would actually have Klansmen show up and stand outside of their meeting. One time it was nightfall, and following the meeting, we were driving. We were on a dirt road. All of a sudden, there were bright lights. Mr. Metcalf said, "Don't turn around, don't turn around. Get on the floor." The gentleman that was in the front seat pulled out a gun. Nobody ever turned around to look in the back, but you could see these beaming, high beam lights. Uncle Wharlest kept driving. Finally, the truck turned off. Not a word was said.
August 13, 1965. For the protection of our Negro citizens against the Ku Klux Klan racist group in the Negro area. As of now, we do not have protection from our local law enforcement, the sheriff, nor the chief of police.
He's just saying the police and the Klan go hand in hand. And that was real clear in that time.
It was known that there were Klan members in the Natchez Police Department. Local black men were tired.
The Negro Protection Organization of Adams County. Take the time to read. Rule 1. That is to not break the law, but to make sure the law do not attack first at any time.
The real reason for this is to stir up trouble, not to start trouble, is to prevent it. You understand? That, right? You know the real stuff we're finna take. Right? Get out now because once again, there ain't no out. See?
Now's the time right now.
Yeah.
Huh? Who? How y'all doing? How you doing? All right.
My father was a very courageous man. He decorated Korean War veteran with a family of fear.
Where you work?
I work at on.
Now, where you live? What section of town you live in?
Living on North Union.
North Union?
Yeah.
We might be house communication house. We got to have some communication home, resident. So we like for you to attend our meeting in the night that you're off. You understand? Who want to be first man?
Left hand, both knees on the floor. Good. Repeat after me. I do.
I do.
Solemnly swear.
Solemnly swear.
Upon my own free will.
My own free will.
Of the being.
Within
the length of my life. Repeat your name.
Wharlest Jackson.
Wharlest Jackson.
Yeah.
I do. Swear.
Swear.
According. That I will not.
That I will not.
Reveal.
Reveal.
Or invade.
To the school board for the Natchez Adams County Public Schools. The undersigned hereby petition your board to initiate desegregation of the public school under your jurisdiction and control.
By late August, the NAACP filed a lawsuit against the schools for desegregation.
We would further request that the names of those signed this petition should not be made public in order to protect the signers from reprisals and harassment.
A fear and a resentment of desegregation of the schools at the time in the white community. There was just wild rumors of what was going to happen if the blacks took over.
My dad and the Klan didn't want black people in our schools, offices, anything. They wanted to get it stopped at all costs.
George Metcalf, president of the Natchez chapter of the NAACP, was critically injured in Natchez this afternoon when dynamite hidden beneath the hood of his car exploded when he turned on the ignition.
When the bomb went off on the hood of his vehicle, melting brass just was found.
After the bombing of Metcalf's car, the black community explodes.
Yeah, get that phone, somebody.
What is happening is that the people are arming themselves, true, but tonight people just want to serve notice on the city, that's all. We let these people know we tired. We mass meeting tonight, Friday, August 27, 1995, St. Catherine, time 6:30 p.m. Purpose, protest Ku Klux Klan violence.
Let Natchez know you're ready. Georgia is not in good condition. As we have told them many a time, they can destroy a man, but they cannot destroy this movement. Didn't do a thing that made us more determined. We're more determined than ever that we're going to rid Natchez of all the racists, the bigots, the Ku Klux Klan, and you're going to do your job as police officers and as mayors of our cities, else. Now you figure out what else is.
I'm going to show you, man, do whatever I can for freedom. If I had to die for it, man.
After George Metcalf is car bombed, enter James Jackson, who is the cool street dude, dark glasses.
Hey man, who's your favorite movie star?
Hey man.
Very addict, always with his gun eye.
The quickest way is free. This is how the tag, man. And Trinae, hey, the fuse is going to be.
On the day after that bomb explosion of George, 5 young men made a trip to Bogalusa, Louisiana. They had heard about.
The Deacons first started in Louisiana. They clashed with the police as they openly practiced armed self-defense.
Got national attention.
We decided to drive to Bogalusa and ask them how they got off. They sent us down a back road to find it. We were surrounded by blacks like I don't know what. Shot all my nose through the door. James Jackson, he got out of it, but they came back out. They gave us guns, and we came on back here.
This is your America. This is your land. We're not going to be run out of our own country by a bunch of cannibals and savages. And we're not going to let the defense, what's the name of those niggas? We're not going to let them take over our country.
And other side of the Mississippi River probably had largest Klan group per capita in the United States.
But, you know, they were afraid of the deacons. They didn't know what they were dealing with.
See, they thought it was 500 of us. Starting off, wasn't but 5 of us.
These deacons for defense, we know who they are, and I'm sure that they know who I am. But one thing I can say for every white man that dies at the hand of these filthy mobs, there are going to be hundreds of those no good African jungle bunnies that's going to go down in the streets.
I had a lot of fear. I was expecting to have another civil war.
Ku Klux Klan used to take pictures of us. Thought we was gonna run.
The Klan had signs saying, the Klan is watching you. And they would have signs saying, the deacons are watching you.
Now, I mean, I'm as scared as the next man. I'm scared, man, you know? You got time set to die. Metcalf car got blowed, all the pieces, man, is still alive. So you don't die until your time comes. By taking risks, man, that's that you're gonna get hurt. You know what I mean?
There's not many of us. We are together, just like a fist, man, just like a fist. You know, we can and we can if you just come out open like this, you know.
You began to see the out in front protecting demonstrators, protecting Black leaders, protecting the community.
The white people were concerned when they saw the Black people carrying guns. They knew about the so-called deacons for defense. It was, I'm sure, very frightening to a whole lot of them.
As a little girl participating in marches, just seeing how they were throwing stuff at us, calling us niggers, it was just ugly.
If they were out there marching and some white wanted to break in there and jump on somebody, we'd grab them and stomp them to the ground.
With the deacon, that was different from previous rhetoric, you know, you would hear from Martin Luther King and others in the nonviolent aspect of the movement.
I believe it's like Martin Luther King, everybody else. I believe in nonviolence, you know. On the other hand, I believe that our people should stop getting killed, man. Like, you know.
Self-defense is a longer tradition that goes on in Black communities from our inception, right?
I go to a meeting of the Deacon for Defense and I observed the fact that they needed more weapons. So I invite Dip here, along with a spokesperson for the Deacons named James Stokes, to California.
Buckley introduced me to different organizations.
We told them about what was going on down here in Natchez, and they gave us guns and they gave us money.
When they came back, they had the capacity to hit the street immediately to checkmate the Klan. The Black community, they're out by the hundreds to demonstrate and protest, and they have these demands that they're given to the city council and the mayor.
They're very simple. We had 12 of them. End police brutality. Denounce the Ku Klux Klan. Desegregate all public facilities and public accommodations. Hire Negroes in all the downtown stores. We're going to continue to protest until we get some of our requests.
This is what we want. I want to know, what can you do about them? That's what I believe.
Yes. I think one important area that we're forgetting, and that's the equal distribution of tax funds in turn.
When the negotiating group was selected by Charles Evers, he only selected Black males. They ignored the contributions of
See, very honestly, it's these ladies, people like Mrs. Duncan, Mrs. Jackson, They are the people who are really getting the job done around here.
No, you got the wrong.
Sure, but I
It's
mean,
not
they're
who gets the
ones
job done, it's the one who can represent
Now, okay,
you.
nobody was being arrested out on the picket line. And the ladies were the ones who fought off those dogs. Well then.
Okay, says the Declaration of the Negro Citizens of Natchez, Mississippi. The United States.
The mayor rejected all of the demands.
The announcement is that the city has rejected every one of these demands.
Here is a bulletin from WNAT. The mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Natchez, at a special meeting this afternoon, has taken strong action to preserve peace and order in Natchez by passing a resolution invoking a citywide curfew.
To try to prevent demonstrations and not call in the National Guard.
You tell the good mayor that I said, all that injunction, conjunction, and some you want to get. We're not going to spend our money with them. Tell you how people can give them decent jobs and recognize them as individuals and human beings.
We're going to walk at every white store in Natchez.
Downtown Natchez is under a strict boycott by nearly half the population. The boycott began when the Negroes failed to get their 12 demands from city officials.
The mayor at the time had a whole shopping center. Me and NASA, we shut his whole damn shopping center down.
Keep the white man's dollar out of his pocket, and you can control him controlling you.
You would walk down the little downtown area, and the storekeepers, they've got comments. I've always been good to you. This would be the kind of statements, and they couldn't understand it.
Mrs. Merle Schote has run a dress shop in Natchez for 27 years. So how would you assess the effect of the boycott on your store?
Well, they haven't boycotted me. They only boycotted Natchez. And when they did that, well, we all are suffering.
Having a family department store that was owned by mother and two uncles, we all wondered why we were picked on.
I want every man in here to stand up. Every man. If the children can walk the line, you can protect them.
Father told me the store that they were boycotting. We don't want you to go in. We don't want you to spend money in there. As a boy, I didn't quite understand it then.
The Negroes meet nightly to work on enforcing the boycott until the whites give in or cave in.
We men don't break our boycott. We're not talking white folk, we're talking Negroes, our folk. We have a right to discipline our people.
A lot of banks don't ignore us. I mean, you can't do this for your freedom. There's one old preacher. You don't tell me where I can shop. I said, they can put the defense for self-security force, enforcers.
These enforcers would punish people who were going to break.
Hear him, I remember, said, you know, he was a big man, and they did not mess with Big Jack. That's what they call him, Big Jack.
Every day out there,
a lot of them went to jail back then, I remember.
The white just wasn't going to give in. Come on with it then. You know what we want.
Now we're in a serious business. We are fighting for the things we've been denied so long. The First Amendment gives us the right to peacefully protest anything that we think is wrong. Now we're going to do that. We're going to march in this city until the mayor and the board of aldermen and the rest of those who've been keeping us down so long open the doors to all the people. How many of y'all going to meet tonight?
My mom, she used to say my dad asked her not to go to the march, but she was one of the ones she went anyway. My mom was just like my dad, hard-headed. I'm going to do what I need to do to help this community.
Keep going, don't hang up now.
There are these marches at night that are taking place. 300 marchers are arrested for parading without a permit.
I'm the Chief of Police, J.T. Robbins. You don't disperse and go home, I will have to put you under arrest. Parading without a permit, which is in violation of the ordinance.
There's another attempt to march, 150. Yet another march is attempted.
Get back on there, please.
We try to block for the police stop. Dead buses. They picked us up and took us to Parchment, Mississippi.
Once they're at Parchment, it's cold, they were stripped naked, they were given a laxative.
They made us all drink about an 8-ounce glass. They said, well, you gonna drink this medicine or else get beat to death.
No toilet paper was given to them, nothing like that. They sprayed water on them in the cells so they froze.
They put 8 of us my side in one cell. We were there all that night, hearing the people moan, sick, asking for help.
It was torture to the highest extent.
I went up there, me and the other 2 deacons, we hung around on the outside apartment, trying to peep in and see what was going on, Well, you couldn't see because they had dogs running around, but we wanted to let somebody know we were there.
My husband made it had to get me out. Get us, several of us out, but so many of us still left there. It was awesome. It was awesome.
They give us no explanation about why they're taking our clothes. They just stripped us naked and say marching against good white people.
After the article came out in the paper about the people being sent to Parchment, some of the guys I played tennis with asked me, said, did that really happen in Natchez? And I said, yeah, that's those pictures of, of here in Natchez.
I think most white people, to be honest, sort of turn the head the other way. Maybe it'll go away if we don't say anything.
In response to the boycott, 6 white businesses closed within weeks. Christmas shopping season is coming up. The white commercial group convinces Mayor Nasser and the aldermen to negotiate.
Surrender. They give in to the 12 demands.
Well, to start with, I wouldn't call them any concessions. I think it's a matter of getting together and trying to solve our differences and agree on something.
By armed resistance, Deacon for Defense and Justice, and enforcing that boycott, that wore down the Jim Crow white supremacy leadership and structure of Natchez.
I feel, so I've been in many demonstrations and many protests, and I feel that this, if it's carried through, and we hope it will be carried through, has been the greatest concessions that has been granted to any civil rights organization in any section of this country.
As a result of the agreement that was reached, 23 white-owned businesses agreed that they would hire Black employees. 6 Black police officers were hired.
So you both put your hand in the air, look like a revolution.
Public institutions is segregated.
It's the best thing that ever could happen.
The Klan was shocked to see how, instead of making the black community afraid, the bombing simply made them more resolved.
Mr. Mayor, do you anticipate any violent reaction from Ku Klux Klan or any other organization as a response to the concessions?
No, I don't.
Back then, my dad worked 3 jobs. I remember him working at Wholesome Bakery.
You know, he was a barber, he cut hair. And Armstrong Rubber, he had the overnight shift.
After my mom got arrested in the 60s and went to Parchment, she came down with lupus disease.
She was sick a lot. My dad would step in, comb my hair, take us to school, cook. He could cook too.
Cook, but we had to eat whatever he fixed.
Some days when he combed my hair, it was interesting.
George Metcalf, president of the Natchez branch, NAACP.
After Metcalf was injured, he didn't have anybody. So Wharlest and Ursulina cared for him.
George Metcalf worked at the Armstrong Rubber Company along with my father. They wrote together to work every day.
Provider.
At Armstrong, as a result of the Civil Rights Act, all of the plants now are under directive from the federal government to open up different jobs to blacks. And so this new job.
My mic wasn't working. Sorry about that, guys. Real quick. So the mother, after they did the protest, they arrested the 300 people. They took them all down there. They told you they froze them. They used the water hose. You know, the water's already cold. It was already cold in there. They tried to, the freezing. You know, the freezing thing is something they always use against us, using the cold against us. Like they're using these fake ass storms and the winter storms here in Texas and some of the other southern states, right now. Just like they froze out our ancestors in Antarctica, right? They do this all the time with the cold, miraculously. And then when they arrested these people, they forced them a liquid enema. So all 300 of these people were forced to take this liquid enema. Now, this is just like the vax now. Think about it, because when they were released after having taken this particular substance, who knows what was in the laxative, the mother immediately got lupus. And lupus, I'm not sure how long it had been around, but it was definitely a rare disease. It still is kind of rare, I believe. So yeah, that was just like crazy. It was a poison they put on them, an experiment in this liquid that they gave them. That was whatever that poison is. I'm sure at the time they didn't think, oh, let's try and see. They didn't have a sample of it to check it, so they never know. But it was some type of poison given to them, and I'm 150% sure of that.
Comes open. It was not a desirable job as far as the work was concerned, but it was a desirable job because of the money. And I think 122 people at the plant were eligible for that position, but he had more experience than anybody, and he got the job.
He did tell me they're going to promote him, and they talked to me about it, and I agreed with what they wanted to do. What you had to do. And I always felt like the Negroes should have the same opportunity as anyone else. And if a position come on, then they offer you take it.
My mom was real worried about my dad. She was almost, like in a nervous, my dad would leave and go out to work.
Jackson had a whole lot of things going against him. He was involved in civil rights. He rode to work with George Metcalf, and he took a job that for the history of Armstrong Tire Company had only belonged to a white man.
You hear a lot of grown people telling my dad to be careful. And my dad always said, don't worry, he'll be back.
I stood right here working on my bicycle in front of my house. I was trying to get my banana seat right, and I had a nice big fat tire on the back of it. I used to see those guys riding those choppers, man. I wanted to make my bike like that too, a little 20-inch bicycle. I heard the explosion in my mind, like, what is that? I never heard anything like that before. I jumped on my bicycle. I shot right there, street here. You can look straight down the street to MLK. I'm noticing people outside of their houses, you know, and I just rode up there looking in. I saw a gentleman laying in the street. Not knowing who he was, and seeing the truck, knowing who truck that was, and not being able to connect the dots together. I saw a shoe that he was wearing, and I grabbed that shoe and came to the house. Later, I heard from my mother as I grew up, I had come back with his flesh in the shoe.
When the explosion happened, I was in the kitchen, and you could hear all the sirens. You could see the lights.
My mom, when she heard that sound, she said, that's your dad, that's Jackson. Before she could finish saying it, they were knocking on the door, letting her know that was my daddy.
They took him to the charity hospital. When I got there, I saw the bloodstream. And I went to it, and he was laying there on the table.
My mind, even now, sometimes I can't even think of what happened. I get pieces of it at times. But I lived this thing over and over again and have been doing it for years. Hoping for some justice.
Chief, from your preliminary investigation, can you tell us the sequence of events that led to this?
Last night, during a heavy downpour, Wharlest Jackson, I understand he went on a new job yesterday. He got off at 8:01 at Armstrong Tire and Reconing. And apparently he had driven this far before the explosion. We're running down the lead. We're going to interview everybody on this street. Now, we're getting them dust now for fingerprints. Then we're got these bomb experts coming in.
You expect an arrest in this one?
Hope so.
It's a terrible feeling to know that someone that you've been so close with and been killed maybe because of something you helped them to do. It hurt. Still does.
You said then that the headquarters of the Klan here in Adams County is here in Armstrong. Is that right?
Well, I didn't say headquarters. I mean, this is a hotbed of here in Armstrong. That's asking that we boycott Armstrong until they can get these un-American people out of here. Then that'll cease to have these bombs and killing. That's destroying Negroes. This look like one here too. There's a green jacket. It looks like when I look out the murder. Oh, the big red bird. You'll see the bird. Two brothers. But the one with the brown was the one that worked with Jackson. That's the one that asked George with the bomb placed on his seat. Did you tell the FBI that? Yeah.
We, citizens of our beloved Natchez, Mississippi, have gathered here tonight to call upon the officials of the United States government to apprehend, charge, try, convict, and punish those responsible.
By the mid-60s, the federal government realized we have this problem in Southwest Mississippi, and something is always up.
What's happening? Say some white boys on that milk. Oh, DJ, I left us out. Reported that I hit the brother thing.
Y'all be quiet, man. Pulled up a pistol and told me to pull on the side. 65 Chevrolet look like a job. What color was it? That pistol? Maroon, yeah. Clear the traffic, let us out of here. Yeah. We'll get it.
Until the FBI figure out who is committing these murders, this is going to continue. They flood, I think altogether there's 180 agents in Natchez. They give it a code named War Bomb.
FBI came in droves. Everybody knew who they were because the cars didn't have FBI. And they're all dressed in suits. It was very strange that it was all focused right here on Natchez.
When I got to the crime scene the second day, there were no fingerprints that were distinguishable. Fingerprints are usually very traceable in a vehicle. But this, so much dust, so much residue from the blast that there was nothing distinguishable as far as prints were concerned. If they were looking for blasting, we had to find out when and where a bomb had been placed underneath his vehicle. I think we talked to 2 gas station owners and a repair shop. That all came up a big negative. All we could do was try to talk to people and see who may have seen something or heard something.
Now listen good. We talked to some of the officials of the FBI, and they have assured me to investigate and try to apprehend these murderers.
On one hand, Black citizens wanted the protection that our government could bring to bear. At the same time, there was a great deal of distrust.
I remember them coming by, sitting there telling my mom, we still gathering information, we doing interviews and stuff like that, but they never had nothing positive to tell her, never gave her any hope.
J.T. Robinson, chief of police, I think he had a good working relationship with the FBI, but he like it was not particularly his case as much as it was the FBI's case.
What I want to say is, I was elected chief of police, not for the white community or the colored community, it was for the city of Natchez. That during all of our racial strife that we had when Medford was bombed, around the clock, and the relations I thought has been real good here lately. As long as I'm chief of police, I'm going to do what's right for the community.
The reason Black people in Natchez have such a problem is over Parchman. That's something I think that forever marked him with the Black community in Natchez.
You got the mayor, the top official that he set up and made his statement.
See, they say we're going to try to do, but we ain't coming with that trying. This is a must do.
The response in terms of the black community is helplessness.
They hadn't caught anybody for all this bombing and all this whooping and stuff, man. They haven't caught anybody.
There wasn't nothing you could do. You wasn't the law. You had to wait for the decision of the FBI's.
Mr. Charles Evans.
To the ministers, to all the people of the audience, I don't know how many more times we'll have to do this. Frankly, I really don't know what to say. There's no law or no protection against if you're a Negro. And you live in a state where, since my brother was killed 3 years ago, 41 Negroes, including our own, has given his life. And all Mr. Jackson was guilty of, he wanted a job to make it better for his wife and 5 children. That's all he wanted. And yet they said, Negroes, please be patient. How long do you want us to be patient? And then you wonder, what kind of justice are we having? What kind of country is this?
America can no longer stand for this. We had 4 little girls killed in Birmingham. We had Medgar Evers assassinated in Jackson. We had a man killed in Natchez, Mississippi.
We know what happened to civil rights workers. We know what happened to Negroes in Mississippi. Sometimes you find them in the river, sometimes you find them hanging from trees, and sometimes you don't find them.
I was very young when I heard about what happened to Emmett Till. I remember seeing the open casket to try to do something about it.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so pleased the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Act is being considered today. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of these crimes that were never brought to justice. There are murders who have walked free for decades. Blood of hundreds of innocent men and women is calling out to us.
It pierced my soul to see take his last breath in my arms.
The life was taken just for nothing.
It's something I don't guess you ever get over.
We were a lost family.
Whites get away with anything.
And I guess we're supposed to sweep all that up under the rug.
I can't get through one day, not one day without.
He was a good guy.
I closed my eyes for the last.
There was individuals that said, this is old. How can we go back? And we had to argue, we must go back.
For the sake of justice, for the sake of closure, the 110th Congress must pass this legislation. We must do something. These rules.
Introduced the Emmett Till Act. I remember hearing it on the news.
Murders that were once ignored or under-investigated during the civil rights era are finally getting more attention. A new bill before us proposes the creation of special units within the FBI and the Justice Department. These units would investigate cold cases.
As far as people coming in and trying to dredge up and talk about the murders and things that took place, I think a lot of people would say, why bring it? It's something that happened in the past and they want to get over.
They started naming all these different cases. It was like, wow, somebody actually tried to do something after 40 years.
I began to lead in December of 2008. When I started, it was hard to overcome that lack of trust between the victims' families and all of law enforcement.
Meeting, Cynthia Deedle tried to shake out some new leads, but there were some in the audience who think the initiative is little more than public relations.
There's been nothing did, and I hate to say things like this because the FBI is the only help I got.
Cold cases are really, really, really hard.
We're talking about cases that are 30, 40 years old. Evidence does disappear. Memories fade. I think the Till Act certainly raised expectations. I think anyone who is looking for answers about a family member who has died thinks that, you know, this is my chance to get answers.
Hi, good morning. How you doing?
All right.
Good to see you. Good to see Miss Ford. How you doing? John Lewis. Hi, how you doing?
John Lewis, baby.
Good to see you.
Nice to meet you, Wharlest Jackson.
Good to see you, brother. Good.
Listen, what more, just for our case, we see after 50 years, a lot of these people are dead.
Yeah.
So how can we, what can we do through this bill?
Well, we need to continue to investigate, because it could be family members or some of the people who committed these unbelievable acts of violence, still living, walking around every single day.
I work right beside of one of the KK members' daughter-in-law. I'm quite sure that someone's something.
Yeah.
And for them to not have come forth at all, it's unbearable. A lot of families that suffered during that period, I honestly believe a lot of them still got a lot of anger in them. And I can use my brother as an example. He still got a lot of hurt.
I know what you have been through. What happened in Natchez and other parts of the South was vicious, sick, and just wrong. I remember the first time I came to this state, members of the Klan attacked us when we tried to enter a so-called white waiting room. They left us lying in a pool of blood. And a lot of the people, they knew what was happening, and they looked the other way. So I think they have to come forward. People who know something.
I find nothing greater to live for than the citizen to, for case, other cases. For years and for years. No one can find no information on my father's murder in this town.
Okay, brother.
But then someone comes along and give you a hope. America.
Being a white person, I had never heard of many of the murders in my whole life. And I got to thinking, I didn't know anything about it, particularly working at a newspaper. I doubt most people did not. I wanted to find out what happened.
The Till Act held the promise that we might get to the bottom of something that had never been solved. We got our hands on the war bomb by initially filing a Freedom of Information Act request. I went down to Washington, D.C. We went down to the ARC, and there was a cart
that came out and just had several boxes of information on this, the Wharlest Jackson case. We were sharing information with Stanley. He was sharing information with us.
The more you read, the more fascinated you get. Then you feel like you're looking into a window of time. Armstrong was filled with many Klansmen. There was talk going around, threats made.
Janitor Alfred Whitley from Natchez, a center of Klan activity, told how a gang of hooded men took him to a swamp one night last year, stripped him naked and whipped him.
They rolled out 2 bullwhips then. And you hear this, it pops around over my head a little. So well, don't you know, we know you is the lead nigger in Natchez of the NAACP? And then that time one shoved a single barrel gun across my nose, there's lead right across there like that, and said, nigger, smell what you gonna die of.
Whitley had never tried to register to vote, never was involved in civil rights work, said he recognized one car of that of a white fellow employee, figured he was beaten because of something he must have said at work.
The Armstrong Rubber Company emphatically and unequivocally denies that it has any knowledge of any Ku Klux Klan part of any of its employees while employed by the company.
Sir, you seem to be saying then that you do not believe that this man's death that had been held previously by a white man. Is that what you're saying?
I am not a law officer or a detective. I, in my own belief, do not believe that this is the prime cause of this man's death.
White denial is as strong as anything we've got out there.
There were some Klansmen who worked in the Klan at that time. Did you know who some of those people were? When you would look, you would say,
well,
I know probably a
bunch of them were.
How many would you say there were as far as that you could say were in the Klan at that time?
Active, probably 30 or so.
30 or so. Do you recall, or did you ever see any harassment on either side?
Not that I can ever remember. They were always, you know, just pulling pranks on each other. And it was nothing with animosity in it. It was just fun.
There was some Klan activity in Natchez, but it looked like a bunch of people running around in sheets to me, and I didn't think it was that serious. I ended up having a couple of friends in it that didn't know were in it at the time. The Grand Wizard of the White Knights was going by the name E.L. McDaniel.
I say that it is not violence when we protect ourselves.
And I didn't know who it was until they marched downtown and they said, that's E.L. McDaniel there. I said, that's Eddie. I've known Eddie all my life. I said, what's he doing out there?
Early on, when I started working on all of these cases, I had never dealt with the FBI or the DOJ in my whole life. I initially began to write stories, and the FBI was reading the material, and agents would occasionally stop by and ask me to share things. I would share, well, this person lives here, and I found this guy or whatever, and I would have questions for them. Good morning, Mr. Perez. How are you doing? And answered my questions. All right, sir. And I suppose by the same token, you couldn't comment on a potential motive or if you have a suspect.
No, I really can't comment. I appreciate the question, but when we have a active investigation, we can't comment.
What's hard is Stanley can give me stuff. I can't give anything to Stanley. That doesn't go both ways.
It's the way things, unfortunately, are done at the Justice Department. It really doesn't matter who you are. You don't get additional information.
Okay. Bye-bye. Finally, I found an FBI agent named John Pfeiffer, who was here for 10 years back during that era. It took a year or two for him to get to know me and to trust me. He told me what they decided to do. We're going to get the name of every known Klansman we can find. We're going to assign 2 agents. We're going to surveil them, and we're going to follow them. We're going to make their life miserable until we figure out what was going on.
Every day I came home, there would be an FBI agent sitting in front of the house. We were coached on how to talk with the FBI agents. We were always told to give an answer they wanted to hear, not the truth.
There were a number of informants that the FBI had in the Klan in that region.
They began to learn from different people that there was this Klan within a Klan called the Silver Dollar Group.
They all carried a silver dollar with their birth year on it.
I think my dad was probably on the foundation of the formation of the Silver Dollar Club. We would go in a restaurant and there would be several people sitting in there, and my dad walked up and he dropped a silver dollar on the table and says, "Does that have a familiar ring to it?" And the guy sitting at the table said, "Yeah, that sounds like..." I don't know how to term them, and this is like a crude term, but if you had an all-star Klan team, that would be, they would be in the Pro Bowl. A Silver Dollar Group member would be the kind of guy that thought wearing a robe was silly, who thought burning crosses was silly, who rejected the old Klan because they weren't achieving anything.
Saw them. You just hear little things about, we got to take care of business kind of thing.
In the record, you would have some of these members of the Silver Dollar going back and forth the Mississippi River, supporting each other with these very nefarious activities.
They were very quick to extreme violence. They felt very comfortable slaughtering people and knowing they could get away with it.
Red Glover, this man that worked at Armstrong, where Metcalf and Jackson both worked. He was the #1 leader of the Silver Dollar Group. John Pfeiffer was the first agent to interview him after.
Did he come off as like an angry person or just a...
No. It was absolute emotional control of himself. You know, as if he's studying you, keeping his mouth shut.
Sonny Taylor, who was a Silver Dollar guy, Sonny said Red picked him up one day and they go out to an old farmhouse and they go up in the attic and they pull out boxes, and there is a child's toy drum, and in that toy drum is primer cord material like that. And Sonny says, "Well, where are you going? You want me to go help you unload this?" And Red said, "No, he'd take care of it."
Oh yeah, I mean, he would not trust anybody.
Well, do you feel like he did that bombing all by himself without lookouts or anything?
Oh, absolutely.
At some point in 1967, after the bombing happened, Sonny Taylor became an FBI informant. He has been with Glover when Glover's moving bombs around. He provided them a good bit of information. Sonny had even implicated himself in the George Metcalf bombing. He says to the FBI, "You give me immunity in this Metcalf case, I'll deliver you enough information you can put Glover away."
You had informed FBI back in the 60s tell you who killed all these people. But that informant was so bad that he almost becomes not credible. Red Glover, there was so much circumstantial evidence that showed that he was involved in the Wharlest Jackson murder, in other murders, but the FBI at the time had zero hard evidence to bring before a grand jury. That was the problem. They had nothing to go on besides, I know you did it. I know you did it.
I heard my mother ask FBI agents for information all the time. Information on my father's case.
Nobody actually openly came out and said, we know who did it.
I called and we tried to find out who it was. Nobody never would tell us. Nobody, I never know nothing.
She was looking for some answers. And she did and got and still no answers.
Since my mother passed, my sister and I had requested information from the FBI concerning my father's death. They only said things that mean worse about my father's case. FBI agent even asked me, do I know who killed my father? Who do I think killed my father? Tell me, go to Stanley Nelson. Stanley Nelson has produced a lot of info on my father's case.
All right. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you.
Same here, same here.
How you doing today?
Good, man. All right.
Good.
Oh, come on.
Thank God for you.
8 years now we've been working on these cases. So what I thought I'd do today, I kind of wanted to tell you what I found out about the Silver Dollar Group and about you, and just share with you what I believe happened in the interviews that I'd done. You know, he wasn't just a chance victim. All had been murdered before him. All these beatings and all these bombings and all these arsons, and he knew that. And he knew when he took that day in 67, it's raining. It's rained all day long. At some point, everyone in the know believes that it was Glover. He slips up on and he wires that on to the left turn signal of Jackson's car, because when Jackson left, he is going to leave the plant, take a right turn on the Minor Street, and as he gets to a certain point on Minor Street, he's going to turn on his left blinker. Usually at the point he would turn on that left signal, he would be right in the middle of a black neighborhood where more than likely children would be running around and playing. But it just so happened that he got caught into overtime, and so it was 8 o'clock at night and no one was on the street. Turns that left blinker, blows him out of the car, and he dies right there on the street. He was a courageous man. Imagine if you were the person that took that job, that had always been a white person's job. It's just an amazing thing that he did that.
Those of us who admired Wharlest Jackson, those of us who are proud of the kind of man he was, are gathered here today to extend our comfort to the bereaved family.
I didn't understand why all the camera was there. You know, even though we buried my father, I didn't understand burial.
I just knew that I wouldn't ever see him again, so.
Me being 12, 13, I didn't know what to do, but I always say, be strong for your mom and watch out for her. Look out for my brothers and sisters.
My son
He was 7 at the time. That next day, I looked everywhere for my child. He wasn't around. He went over to where they had the truck at, and they found him. That's what he was. Just crying.
I know it's hard, man, but I know you want to know what happened too, and that's
Man, they treat us worse than that. Ain't no people with that cruel. I ain't no people with that bloodthirsty. Man, I had no idea. How could people sleep at night knowing that they don't kill somebody like that?
Glover died in 1984 of a brain tumor. We have pretty well all of these suspects that I've been telling you about have pretty well died. When they close the case, they're going to send y'all a letter.
They can't close the case.
America's going to have to answer for the injustice that they have caused on people for many years.
It was an FBI agent that knocked on the door. I opened the door up. He said, I'm looking for Wharlest Jackson Jr. He went back to his vehicle and gave me that letter.
I received it in the mail and it was a slap in the face. I felt like the FBI brought all this attention out to make themselves look good, and and our families still suffered. I often tell myself nothing will ever survive over here because of the prejudiceness that happened in this building. A lot of sadness, a lot of hurt.
People can be frustrated if someone isn't convicted, if someone isn't arrested. But at some point, a determination has to be made to close the case. We, everyone who could possibly have any real information. How many times are we going to reinvestigate? There's no more value in asking more questions.
I pray someday that we will come to the realization that Black lives matter. We suffer the effects of slavery, of abuse.
It's been years, and even though I try to say that I'm over it, the less talk that I do, the better off I am.
Some of us suffer it mentally. Some suffer it physically.
I actually had a hatred for white people for a long time. It's like I blamed every white person that I came in contact with.
Lord, we say thank you.
Thank you. It took my life down a different avenue. It's been real hard. But you move on, you persevere.
During the height of the civil rights movement, when people were murdered or beaten, do people get counseling? No. We've been left on our own.
This is a mom with a moral table, my father standing over. The pain that my family suffered then, we still suffer now.
There's a sense that families like ours, we should just get over it. But we have to admit the truth first.
You can have memorials, yes, but memorials cannot clothe and feed a family.
I was only, 10 when my father got killed. They had 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy. And of course, you see the baby behind me. Those of you who seek injustice, you all are not alone. We're all in this together.
It's not an easy journey, it's a journey. Sometimes you got to step back and take a look, and even to take a break, because this can be very exhausting sometimes.
What really hurt me about today is hearing y'all stories, man. To see that y'all still fighting. You know, it should have
been automatic.
Oh, brother, that
Justice, the death of your sister has created a bond with you and I, with all those that are involved in the civil rights era and so forth. And you're going to have some dark nights, some dark days because of your sister's death, even as I have had with my father's death. And I want you to know, I want to be that person that you can call and talk to.
Man, bro. Feels good to hear that, man, because there's a lot of times where you just feel like you out here by yourself, all alone.
I was so angry. Don't let anger get it. I was so frustrated. I was so revengeful that I couldn't stand myself. So I said, don't get like that, brother. Let love rule and reign in your life. It's a cruel world, but you be that light.
In Natchez, America, the history of resistance has been erased. That might make white people feel uncomfortable. The Natchez boycott doesn't fit the narrative. The Deacon fit, they don't fit it at all.
Coming out of the Black Conscious Movement, I was looking to highlight the injustice of the unequal history here. We're fixing to go left on Martin Luther King. Slow just a minute. If you could see that that building right there, the two-story building, is where the president of the Deacon for Defense and Justice, James Jackson, cut hair there. This place right here was called the White House. This is where Charles Evers hung out and made their strategy for what they would do. The Deacons talk about how they used to be on top of the buildings right here, protecting Charles Evers and other people as they met. This church right here is called the Baptist Church, and this is where hundreds of people attempted to protest. They arrested them and took them to Parchman, Mississippi.
What that arrest was my mother and my father. It was the first time I ever missed my mother and father from being at home.
Where we're going now show you where Wharlest Jackson lived when he...
Never get anybody. No, never. To the left here, you'll see the sign. We have a monument mark, and over here on the right side of the street where you see where the bomb went off at.
This was the piece that I found within myself to honor the late Wharlest Jackson Sr. He received a promotion at the on-time rubber company that otherwise would have gone to a white employee for a 5-cent raise. You think about 5 cents.
A Wharlest Jackson, oftentimes we don't hear the narratives of those folks. They're just a regular person who decides to stand up and to work on behalf of the community.
What's your name? Wharlest Jackson. Wharlest Jackson.
But our story should include folks like that.
It has been a hard 54 years and still is hard, but it brings great honor that I stand here in his steps and on his shoulders. Thank you, Daddy.
All right, this thing taking forever to unmute. Goodness. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that watch party. That was a very good story. I said, you know what, I want to share this with you guys. I saw it a day or so ago. Public broadcasting station has a lot of information on it. There are actually two different videos I wanted to show you guys, but this was a very good one pertaining to this so-called History Month, showing some history of things that people have done today. I decided to show this one because I heard somebody on my brother platform talking about donating to Ukraine and starting this big fund to help feed them and this and that so they can sustain themselves from the war. I don't really know a lot about political stuff. I'm going to be honest, I don't really get into it. I don't want to say anything too negative, but I'm like, how are they talking about trying to get up all this money to go send to another place, and we don't even have anything together for ourselves? We're so abused and misused and everything. I'm just wondering how somebody is able to have so much of a heart to go do something for someone in another country and we don't even help ourselves. I mean, it's just absurd to me, the whole idea. But this just goes to show that we don't, if we don't stick together and help ourselves, we can have a foundation where we don't have to depend on these people and any of the things that they're doing. Just doing the things that you do right. Yeah, they stole our lives of our ancestors, bro. You seen it, the Armstrong Tire Company. That company was owned by George Armstrong and founded by him. So how was it that this white man owned this company and now only white people could work there? We don't want no blacks there, as they said. And this, knowing that this was indigenous man company that they stole, took his name and took his company. So ignorant. So ignorant. I get so tired of these people just doing what they want to do, treat us like imbeciles and idiots, and like we're just ignorant and we're stupid. We'll just keep telling them anything. Not to say that people don't believe a lot of stuff, but man, when it comes to it, it's absurd. Let's see. Let me see. I want to finish up a little bit on this Michigan thing. Let me get into this a bit. Let me pull it up. Oh, I had a long day, but I know I said I was going to try and do this. So I'm going to do at least some of this. Okay, there we go. Okay, let me see. All right, so let me see. We were into where it was showing, we're talking about the livestock. Goodness gracious, I'm not going to that page, but these pages are. Okay. We're talking about what's going on in Chicago. Okay. It was something I want to read. The northern portion of the lake only is covered with ice in winter, and ice never reaches as far as Milwaukee. Milwaukee River remains closed on an average for 100 days from the beginning of December to the middle of March. So the average date of the opening and closing of navigation at the Strait of Mackinac, where the ice remains longest, is the 17th of April and the 9th of January, respectively. Regular lines of steamers, especially equipped to meet winter conditions, most of them being car ferries, cross in Lake and Strait of Mackinac, all winter between the various ports. No notable rivers flow into Lake Michigan, the largest being the Big Mackenzie, and let me see. So let's see. Sorry about that, guys. No notable rivers flow into Lake Michigan. The largest being the Big Manistee and the Muskegon on the east shore, and on the west shore, the Menominee and the Fox, both of which empty into the Green Bay, the most important arm of the lake. The numerous arbors are chiefly artificial, usually located at the mouth of streams, and in improvements consisting of two parallel piers extending into the lake and protecting a dredge channel. Sandbars keep filling up the mouth of these channels, necessitating frequent dredging and extending of the breakwaters. Work undertaken by the federal government, which also maintains a most comprehensive and complete system of aids and navigation, including lighthouses, light ships, fog alarms, gas, and other buoys, life-saving, storm signals, and weather reporting stations. Okay. This report is from 1896. As you guys remember earlier, we were reading, it was showing how they were forcing them certain areas to go back, taking over this area, and it came, I think it was like Massachusetts, and came in, took that over, all the different areas over there, and moving out the Chickasaw. So then when they moved the Chickasaw out, they were, doing all this stuff. So Chicago, the principal port on the lake. I just did a video. I didn't do a video on my. I put a video on my community tab. I don't know if you guys saw it, on the Wabonsi stone in Chicago. The Wabonsi stone is a stone that was at the port of Chicago, where there's a big, huge Indian head, a cinder block carved with a carved Indian head. With this particular Wabonsi stone, it was signifying the chief in the area, because this is where they did all their port and their trading and everything in that area. So, I thought I was sharing this with y'all guys. Hold on, let me see. I thought I was sharing, and I was on the other page. Hold on a second. So if you didn't get the chance, guys, to see my live earlier today, this is actually going into part 2 of that. We were talking about Michigan, everything that happened, how they acquired Michigan. They acquired a couple of other areas. Let me see, I can go back briefly just to kind of briefly catch anybody up that didn't see that. Yeah, I'll do that in a minute. But basically, it was, all the areas they came into. And it was talking about how big they have all these lakes that they basically like blocked off to make like different lakes, when it really is just one huge lake. One huge lake. Okay, Chicago, the principal port on the lake, it is at its southwest extremity and is remarkable for the volume of its trade. Of course, the volume of its trade. I thought they were saying there was no trading. The number of vessels arriving and departing exceeded that of any port in the United States. Though the tonnage is less than that of New York, it is a large railway center. A large railway center. And the number and size of the grain elevators are noticeable. The port is protected by breakwaters enclosing a portion of the lakefront. The level of the city above the lake being only 14 feet, much difficulty arose in draining it. A sanitary and ship canal, 34 m long, was therefore completed in 1900 to divert the Chicago River, the small stream that flows into the lake, into the headwaters of the Des Plaines River, and hence through the River Joliet into the Mississippi at St. Louis. The discharge of water is by law so regulated that the maximum flow shall not exceed 250,000 cubic feet per minute. The effect upon the permanent level of the lake with withdrawn in water through the artificial outlet is receiving much attention. Milwaukee, situated on the shore of Milwaukee Bay, on the western side of the lake, is next to Chicago, the largest city on the lake. It has a large commerce and a harbor of refuge. Escanaba on Little Lake Vina And let's see. Okay. I'm sorry, I was doing something else too. I'm always doing like 3 or 4 things. The effect upon the permanent level of the lakes in the withdrawal of water through this artificial outlet is receiving much attention. I think I missed something. The discharge of the water is by law so regulated that the maximum flow shall not exceed 250 cubic feet per minute. The effect upon the permanent level of the lakes and the withdrawal of water through this artificial outlet is receiving much attention. Milwaukee, situated on the shore of Milwaukee Bay, on the western side of the lake, is next to Chicago, the largest city on the lake, and has a large commerce and a harbor of refuge. Escanaba, on Little Bay de Naca, in the northern part of the lake, is a natural harbor and a large iron shipping port. Green Bay and Lake Michigan are connected by a canal extending from the lake to the head of Sturgeon Bay. Lake Michigan is connected at its northeast extremity with Lake Huron by the Strait of Mackinac, 48 m long, with the minimum width of 6 m. The water is generally deep in the shoals lying near the usual travelers routes are more marked. The bibliography and sailing directions for Lake Michigan, Green Bay, and the Strait of McIntosh is on the U.S. Navy Hydrographic Office publication number 108B. Let me put that down. Okay. Bulletin, such and such, just talking more about that. So this talks about the University of Michigan. One of the principal educational institutions of the United States, situated on Ann Arbor, Michigan. It embraces the Department of Literature, Science, and the Arts, including Industry and Commerce, opened in 1841. Very, 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 very interesting, right? Goes right along lines with everything else. And including a graduate school organized in 892. A Department of Medicine and Surgery opened in 850. A Department of Law opened in 859. The School of Pharmacy opened as a separate department in 876. Homeopathic Medicine College opened in 875. A College of Dental Surgery opened in 875. A Department of Engineers separately organized in 895, which includes courses in marine engineering, architect, and architectural engineering. The university was one of the first to admit women, having opened its doors to them in 1870 as a natural consequence of its receiving aid from the state. Since 867, and since 900, they have constituted nearly one half of the student body in the Department of Literature, Science, and Arts. In 907 to 908, there are in all departments 350 instructors and 5,013 students. 796 is the Department of the Literature, Science, and the Arts. 354 is in the Department of Engineering, 391 in the Department of Medicine and Surgery, 791 in the Department of Law, 101 in the School of Pharmacy, 82 in the Homeopathic Medicine College, 68 in the College of Dental Surgery, 70 in the summer sessions. Besides the several main departments building, there is a library building, a museum building, several laboratories, a gymnasium for men and a gymnasium for women. A general library in 908 contained 172,940 volumes, 38,000 pamphlets, 3,370 maps, and several department libraries around the total up to 222,600 volumes and 500 pamphlets. The General Museum contains large zoological collections, geological, anthropological collections, including the exhibit of the Chinese government at the New Orleans Exposition, which was given by the government to the university in 885. There are besides several special collections in some of the laboratories. The Astronomical Observatory is surmounted by a movable dome in which is mounted a retracting telescope having a 13-inch optic glass. The several laboratories are equipped for use in instruction in physics, chemical, mineralogy, geology, zoology, psychology, botany, forestry, arterial work, whatever that is, engineering, histology, physiology, hygiene, electrotherapeutics, pathology, anatomy, and dentistry. The university is governed from without by a board of 8 regents elected by popular suffrage. 2 biennially at the same time as the election of judge of the Supreme Court from within the government is to a large extent in the hands of the University Senate, in which the faculty of each department is represented. The university is maintained by a permanent annuity of $30,000, derived from the land set apart for it by the ordinance of 787 by proceeds of the 3/8 meal tax, and by small fees paid by the students. Its organic relationship to the other public schools of the state will be established in 870 when it is provided that graduates from such high schools as has been examined and approved by a committee of the university should be admitted without examination. One of the most important functions of the university is to prepare students for teaching in the high school. The finest indoctrination, to prepare indoctrination for more indoctrination. Do you guys hear this? Like, this is absurd. Let me check on my chat. What's going on, chat? Yes. More indoctrination, to indoctrinate the ones that can come back and teach the others so that they can be more indoctrinated. That sounds crazy. That sounds real crazy. All right. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. Okay, let me see. Let me go back. Because I want to make sure I went over something with y'all. I don't want to get too much in this book, because this book will get me caught up in like, I don't want to be that concerned with Michigan, but it just kind of shows, if this happened to Michigan, the same thing happened, just like it said earlier, how they moved the Chippewas. It was saying that, I think, on the, let me minimize this. If I get just one other thing I might want to look at. Man, the internet is slow again. Let's hold on. There we go. Oh, yeah, this is a big book. All right, let me see. Let's see. Something else I wanted to read in here before I get to this other information, but let's see. It's a little slow. It's taking its time. Okay, this internet moving slow. Maybe I'll just go to the other one here. Hold on a second. Let me see. This thing is starting to be going too much right now. And that I don't want to do. Yeah, we'll get back to this another time. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on. Okay, give me a minute. No. Oh, okay. The page is a little slow. Oh, three different things. Okay. All right, guys. Hold on a second. I literally was about to do something else and put y'all on a quick hold. But hold on, let me see. I want to at least pull the book up before I do that. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right, guys, here we go. I'm moving slow again. I'm moving slow. Bro said Bro said, take your time. Y'all know how I get now. Lil, yo, what's up, bro? I ain't seen you in a minute. Libra son, peace and blessings. Just seeing you too. Don't think I was ignoring you guys at first. Sometimes I'm moving so fast and all over the place. Y'all know how I get. Even the ones that don't be here often. Y'all know how your girl get. Yes. Blessings, bro. Bro said, take my time. Great. You know what I'm going to do? Let me play y'all one song. I'm going to make me a drink. I actually have...
Power on. Bluetooth pairing.
Is it pairing already? Is it on already? What's going on?
Bluetooth connected.
There we go. All right. Yeah, let me play y'all something real quick. And then... when I come back with my drink, we're going to get into it. But let me share. Y'all might want to start reading it before I even get back. Let's do that. Let's see. Let's get it up there. And then I can, oh, wait a minute. Let me zoom in on it. Make it a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. Okay. Okay. That's better. Working the swing shift. Oh, I hate that. You don't know when you're gonna, what time you're gonna work. Switch to that. Even if you know you got your body got to get adjusted to this and that. Oh, that's so much. All right, let's see. Let me get the book pulled up for you guys. All right, so yeah, there we go, guys. Get it pulled up just in case anybody want to start reading while we listening. If not, then I'll get right to it when I get back. Play y'all a little bit of music real quick. Let's go to our favorite playlist of our Aboriginal guys, and we're gonna go from there. Okay. Who I'ma play? Let's see. All right, let's see. Let's start her off with something. I like this song. It's not too mellow. It's chill. Let's play Flesh and Blood Out of the Blue real quick, guys. Turn it down a little bit. I'll be right back.
Tempo on the beat. I couldn't believe it, even when out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. Been dealt with there by the devil, and I'm still in the field. Now you get to watch me get it up out of the mud. I couldn't believe, even when I was out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. I've been dealt with there by the devil, and I'm still undefeated. Now y'all get to watch me get it up out of the mud. Now y'all get to see me without a mud. Everything that I do won't be out of love. And I'm tired of these trials and these tribulations. And I'm sick of my name always getting drugged. But no, I ain't budge. All of this money and you not pursuing it. All of this time you don't know what to do with it. Counterproductive and counterintuitive. Why you be acting like you already knew to it? Straight from the gutter, boy, we getting sewer. As soon as we get it, you know we gon' move it. With all of this money I made from the block, get out the game and invest it in stock. Bought me a whip, get the rest of it up. When you saving no stuff and it messes them up. When they'll be fine, but we stay on our grind. All of my niggas is stepping it up and they put on our neck and no letting it up. We love with the plan, believe in the battle. My son is a scientist, he's putting at us. Need us more geniuses, I know we got them. I know it's in us, I'm breaking it out. I know ain't perfect, I'm making them model on Capitol Hill and I'm bringing them hollows, the path and emotion. Nobody follows. I couldn't believe it, even when not an eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. The devil there by the devil, and I'm still in the field. Now you get to watch me get it up out of the mud. I couldn't believe, even when I was out of eye, and I still couldn't see it. This is much deeper than flesh and blood. Nigga, we fighting demons. I've been double there by the devil, and I'm still undefeated. Now y'all get to watch me get it up out of the mud. We fall on this road real longer. Fighting each other won't make us no stronger. I need this niggas been fighting this longer. I'm at my worst and ain't getting no longer. No genocides, I'm making it through. I flip a terror and table or two. They won't believe what I'm able to do. I'm making these moves, and this is a new movement. My dog at the gate and I'm praising the newest. I'm getting too late and my boat back with release. On my way up and I break through your roof. Shot for the moon and they made me a star. Got so much time I can make it tomorrow. Can't promise the day that I make it tomorrow. Every time that we make it, the pay will be borrowed. The pay will be borrowed.
All right. We back. All right, let's get to it. Ooh, I wish I had a reader up here. Oh, this one is the audio. This one from the Library of Congress. Right. Hold on. Your girl might be in luck tonight. Hold on a second, guys. I believe so. Let's see. Hold on, y'all. Let's see how it works.
Northern France.
going on my live really. Okay, I'm getting distracted. Okay.
If the these of peace to have yielded to the Kaiser's extension of his invasive battle line out upon the ocean to the 20th meridian in our direct
You had the door by rule, baby? Hold on. Yeah, guys, I'll probably start reading.
also because it is a war in defense of the peaceable democracies of the world. This justification, eloquently carried made by the President in his war proclamation, cannot be too often repeated, nor too clearly apprehended. We are now about to accept gauge of battle with Tria's natural foe to liberty, said the president, and shall, if necessary, spend the whole force of the nation to check.
If you guys can understand it good, or if you need me to read, I was just taking a break from it. I'm being a little lazy. My head's bothering me a little bit. Having some sinus issues with this weather.
And nullify its pretensions and its power. We are glad, that Lucy the Fox with no veil of false pretense about them, to fight thus for the ultimate peace of the EU and for the
Dang, do we need to start over, y'all?
liberation of its peoples, the German people included, for the rights of nations, great and small, and the privilege of men everywhere to choose their way of life and obedience. TG world must L/E made safe for democracy, and injury to one is the concern of all. Its peace must be planted upon the lastly foundations of political liberty. We have no selfish ends to serve. We desire no conquest, no dominion. Our war is not of the Prussianistic order. We shall fight for the things which we have always carried nearest our hearts, for democracy, for the right of those who submit to authority to have a voice in their own governments, for the rights and liberties of small nations, for a universal dominion of right, such a concert of free peoples as shall bring peace and safety to all nations, and make the world itself at last free.
And make the world itself at last free.
Those are the ideals for which we are to struggle while in the war. They are the ideals for which we are to stand in adjusting terms of peace when the war is over. And they are none the less genuine because in our war struggle in their behalf we temporarily suspend our own guarantees of individual liberty in order to make the war effective as our people would have it, instead of a failure as the warlords of Germany would like it to be. This is part of the necessary cost of all wars for democracy. Our evolutionary war, with its democratic purpose and outcome, could not have been won by democratic methods. The French Revolution, with its democratic aspirations and its overthrow of ancient feudalism, was it not sustained coercively? Our civil war for a government of the people, for the people, and by the people was not prosecuted in very strict accordance with democratic forms or deference to democratic guarantees. It is not, however, with the higher ideals for which they are now at war that this discussion is especially concerned, except as they may be involved in the necessity for defending ourselves against an invading foe. Back of those ideals are the plain workaday facts to which the president referred as the moving cause of our going into the war, when he advised Congress that the recent course of the Imperial German government had been in fact nothing less than war against the Gobi or 17 and Pojapoljo. Viennud taten bayan r sverfo sui f.80x.r.6j3 cnlj on those fac s the Congress of the United States, the only authority known to our fundamental law for such action, and through the only process that would have been binding upon our government, accepted the war challenge of the German Kaiser. No referendum could have had any legal force, nor would it have had any probable advisory value.
Just to clarify for anybody who's like, what the heck is that thing saying? Shit. It was literally reading backwards. You know how when you're looking at, well, I don't know if you guys know, but if you've ever seen an old book, a lot of times the ink will start to fade through the other side of the page. So under that sentence where it said United States, you can see through the other side where it's saying backwards, the United States for us to have something. and it's backwards, but it's the ink bleeding through. And it was literally reading it, making it sound like some other language. That shit was weird, but I just wanted to say that's what it was, if anybody wondered.
It would only have offered another opportunity for Prussian diplomacy. The obligation avas upon Congress, the only power to decide avas in Congress, the only available reflection of public opinion short of revolution avas through Congress. And Congress accepted this challenge of war. It did fio 2 of PNA 8 ira but in TMJ enblick interest. It did so because German goe Ermant avas making actual war upon the government and people of the United States. The challenge was not accepted while it remained a scrap of paper. But when this challenge of war was vitalized by deeds of war, when in accordance with its terms of defiance American ships were sunk and American lives were taken under the American flag by the government of Germany, within an ocean area on which the rights of this country are as infeasible as its rights to its own territory, but over which the German government had invasively assumed exclusive sovereignty, then Congress accepted the challenge of war. There was no possible alternative. This self-constituted enemy of ours, after long fostering a policy of conquest, had actually invaded Belgium and France pursuant to that policy. By that long-fostered policy, he had proved his invasive intent. By his actual invasion he had transmuted invasive intent into invasive action. By his diplomatic negotiations with Mexico and his operations within the United States he had disclosed his invasive intent toward the United States itself as one of the objectives of his general policy. By throwing his invasive battle line out upon the ocean to the 20th meridian, in the direction of the United States, with a threat to the United States, he confirmed his hostile intent toward this country. His destruction of American ships and American lives under the American flag within that ocean area was the overt act of his aggressive war upon the United States. For us to have ignored the manifest threatened after it had been vitalized by the overt act would have been to surrender at discretion. So our war with the autocratic German government, if it involved no ideals at all of the loftier or less selfish TJ-PE, would nevertheless be justified.
Right.
As a necessary war of national self-defense. We are resisting invasion as truly as if our call to arms had been to check a hostile army marching northward through Mexico or southward from Quebec. And in sending soldiers to France to help the French, the British, and the Belgians drive the invader away from their home countries and back into his, we are defending our own home country under the same necessity as if we were advancing into Guanajuato or Mexico to meet an approaching army of conquest. While the German Kaiser is in France or Belgium, he is a menace to the United States, now that he has demonstrated his hostile intent toward this country, and no peace can be made with safety to our independence until he has left the places he has invaded and gone back to his own frontiers.
It might possibly have been better to assent to his conquering the world, nation by nation, until our turn came, than to enter into the awful carnage which resistance to his foul, ambitious demands. But that was not the question. We were not confronted with the problem of war or no war. Our problem was one of resisting conquest now, in a war in Europe and with allies, or later on in our own country and without allies. So the problem that's going on now, if people aren't aware with this whole Russia thing, is because the treaty that Putin is breaking. The treaty, actually that was the end of the book. Dang, I can't believe we read through this whole book. I don't believe we fast forwarded. I believe we read through the whole thing. Let me go back to the beginning just to make sure. Because this talked about, this may be a different book than I thought, guys. Hold on a second. But real quick, yeah, with this guy breaking this treaty, and now that he broke the treaty, it's like all out war because now anything can go. Basically, is what it seems like. If you broke that, okay, here we go. The King of Prussia. I think we did fast forward to where it was talking about the invasion on America. Let me see. King of Prussia, divine right and the birth. Da, 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 who cares? And da, 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 da. Yeah, we did read all this and the other thing. Okay, this is not the book then. God, hold on, let me find it. Let me find it for you guys. Ooh. We want to get through one, at least certain things on one thing. Oh, now I know what it was. It was the one that has to do with this stupid Mackenzie family. So let me see where it's McKinney family. The ones that were actually pushing them out. Let me see if this is the one. Federal relations. I don't think this is it. Let me check. Oh gosh, he's going back and forth with this share screen. I might be losing my spot here. That's the federal relations. No. No, that's not it. It's just too many windows I have opened, but I cannot close them. Oh, I can close this one now since we finished the book. I can close that one now. Let's see. Anybody help? Let's see. Y'all be having so much patience with me. Okay, okay. Hold on, guys. I'm about to pull up the one that was shown that shows how and where they were moving them when these Irish people came in. So, just trying to find the right document if I can find it. Hold on a second. I think it's been Alright. I think we're on the way now. Alright, here we go. Let's see. No, to it. Hold on, guys. Oh, sorry. Let me cancel it. Hold on a second. Oh Lord, unpin and exit, please. Close. Okay. One down. Here we go. Okay. This is the Monday. The Wildcat Bank. We did talk about that earlier. And this may be too much of a conversation to get into because it's getting a little late for me. So let me see. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Goodness gracious. Okay. 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 Let's see. Let's start with New York Indian country. We read some of this before. I'm trying to remember. This is where did we leave off at? Or did I just get into it a bit? Try to remember that. Okay, yeah, we can start here because we're going to do a little bit more reading because I didn't get to finish that earlier. And peace, Aura. All right, let's see here. Here we go. There we go. Wake up. Okay. Okay, guys, let's read it. This is going to be the collapse of the imperial control, the importance of the Indian problem, the tribes with whom the government dealt, the establishment of imperial control of matter of necessity. The proclamation of 1763 was a temporary expedition. The excellent but expensive plan of the 1764 establishment of an Indian boundary, which was to be maintained by the individual colonies. The imperial land policy not always consistent. The Indian Department tries to prevent illegal land purchases in the South because they were doing all these, taking over the lands, obviously. And encroachments of tribal lands in the North by Lord Drummer's war, a spectator's war. The Indian Department meets with difficulties in trying to enforce trade regulations in the South. The attempt to establish a unified trade policy in the North does not succeed. The Quebec Act, an attempt to place Northern Indian trade under government control. So there was something called the Quebec Act. I've never heard of that. Was an attempt to place the Northern Indian trade under government control. The collapse of the British control of Indian affairs in the South. The end of imperial rule in the North. The New York colony proposes a policy of unified control of Indian affairs. The Pennsylvania-Virginia boundary dispute. Virginia takes steps to protect the western frontier, establishment of the Continental Indian Department's preliminary negotiations with the tribes. The Indians as a factor in the Revolutionary War. The problem of Indians participating in the war, why the Americans failed to secure the Indians as allies, congressional machinery for managing Indian affairs, treaties with the Six Nations, British able to maintain many agents among the tribe. The British were able to maintain many agents among the tribes, always our own people. Activities in the New Yorker, 775, the Fort Pitt Frontier, 776 to 77. Congress takes charge of Fort Pitt Frontier. 777, the British Indian Department in the South. The revival of the British agents in the North. Revival of the British and Americans for the support of the Six Nations. The Reconing expedition, the St. Leger expedition, the Fort Pitt Frontier in 777 to 779. The Clark expedition and episode in the struggle for possession of Western land, controversy of Virginia with the land companies. The Sullivan expedition, the New York frontier of 780, the British attack on St. Louis, the New York frontier 781, the Fort Pitt frontier 781, and the Indians as auxiliaries during the war. So this is the information showing that they were helping them. Obviously, as we talked about before, it showed another document that yes, they teamed up with them. That's why the Chickasaws were forced to team up with the British, because if not, they would have been slaughtered by their own people because they had help from the French. Okay. The Indians not mentioned in the Peace Treaty of 783, the failure of the Douglas Mission, General Schuyler's preliminary negotiations with the Six Nations. The General Schuyler in Washington advised Congress with regard to Indian affairs. Congress proposes to secure revenue from the western lands. The Land Ordinance of 785, the Ordinance of 786 for regulating Indian affairs, the Treaty of Fort Stanwix, Klan with the state of New York, the Fort McIntosh Treaty not acceptable to the Indians. Captain Doty points out the weakness of the federal Indians policy, and the Treaty of Fort Finney. Indians not willing to accept its provisions, which was very smart. We read that as well. They were talking about that. So a lot of this actually just confirms a lot of the same information that we read prior and some other documentations, even in the McKinney family history. The problems of peace negotiations with the Indians report, Federal Commission, Georgia attempts to secure more land from the Creeks. Okay, let me read that. The report of the Committee on Indian Affairs in the South, proposals for a Southern Confederacy to deal with the Indians, state negotiations with the tribes, conditions in the South, hasten federal action. The federal commissioners failed to secure a treaty with the Creeks. The Spanish influence on Southern Indian affairs. Georgia opposes the federal policy. The treaty with the Cherokees. North Carolina opposes the treaty. The treaties with the Chickasaws and the Chickasaws. Georgia attempts to secure more land from the Creeks. The state of Franklin makes unlawful seizures of Cherokee land. James White, the newly elected federal superintendent of Indian affairs, tries to mediate between Georgia and the Creeks. Secretary Knox report on a plan for military action. Knox report on the dispute between North Carolina, Georgia, and the state relation. Georgia is unable to carry out its particular, it's unable to carry out its particularistic policy. The congressional proposal for dealing with the Southern Indians, Georgia hopes to secure for herself. Indian secession already made. Congressional resolution for the protection of the Indian lands. North Carolina is in opposition to the federal Indian policy. All of them were in opposition to it, obviously. It's also unable to give proper financial support from federal negotiations with these tribes, failing of the Cherokee and the Creek tribes. Interesting. Right, keep breaking the treaties without any type of consequences. Do what they want. Blah, 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 da, 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 da. Yep. But they were supposed to be induced by the tribe with them taking over doing things the way they want. That's why everything gets screwed up. Anytime they take over and try to do something, take control of it to get messed up, just like the whole United States. Toward the Indian policy, let me see, we can skip this part. The collapse of imperial control. The Indian problem was not new. For years, it had concerned the statesmen of England, France, and Spain, as well as colonial leaders. The tribes were in possession of valuable land. Listen to this jealous shit. This is the part that be cracking me up with these people. It's just so sad. The tribes were in possession of valuable land. Their trade was the cause of military rivalry, and their warlike abilities made them very formidable. Before taking up the main thread of the story, it will be necessary to give a brief review of the later stages of British control. In this chapter, therefore, we shall give a general review of the tribes during the final period of imperial control. It will then be necessary to see how the British machinery for the management of Indian affairs ceased to function, also to note the early steps taken by the new government in its attempt to deal with the tribes. The Micmac was one of the more important northeastern Indian tribes. They were you guys. One of you guys were talking about the Micmacs yesterday. Who was that? They dressed like judges and prosecutors. One of you guys were talking about. I don't know if you're in the chat now, but I don't know if you remember one of America. Someone was talking about the Micmacs, and here it is. It's coming up. Okay. The Micmac was one of the more important northeastern Indian tribes. It occupied parts of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, the Prince Edward Islands, the northern part of New Brunswick, and probably southern and western Newfoundland. This group, along with the smaller tribes of St. John's and Nova Scotia, were the principal nations with whom the Continental Congress dealt. On the whole, the Indians of this region played one of the least important roles. The Iroquois tribes were located in central New York and northern Pennsylvania. According to an estimate of 774, this group numbered between 10,000 and 12,000 souls. It don't say people, it say souls. They're located, wow, that's striking. 10,000 and 12,000 souls. Their location within striking distance of one of the rich grain sections of the country, and outward one of the main routes into the West, as well as their fighting qualities, made these tribes an important factor in northern Indian affairs. I know that's right. In the country north of Ohio and east of the Mississippi were numerous tribes. Most of them were confirmed enemies of the colonists. The Delaware or Lenape were found northwest of the Ohio River, in the valley of the Muskegon, and along other streams of western Ohio. Their lands joined those of the Senecas. They're talking about New York. That's a beautiful lake too. Their lands joined those of the Senecas, the largest and most western of the Six Nations. About the year 710, the Delawares had received permission from the Miamis and the Pincushaws to settle the territory between the Ohio and the White River in what is now the state of Indiana. Wow. They created the state of Indiana. Do you see that, sis? You was talking about that Indiana. The Shawnees lived in the valley of the Scioto and in the Pickaway Plains. They were to play an active part in the Revolutionary War, doing much damage in Kentucky, and upon them the organized vengeance of the Kentucky frontiers associated tribes, the Piakeshaws, the Weas, occupied the Wabash County and the territory northwest of Ohio. They were destined to take a prominent part in Indian affairs until after the year of 812. The chief seat of the Ottawas seemed to have been near the lower end of the Lake Michigan, extending along the eastern shore for as far as the St. Joseph River. Some had settled in northern Wisconsin. More others had occupied territory with the Wyandots along the shores of Lake Erie from Detroit to Beaver Creek in Pennsylvania. The Potawatomis were a group continually moving southward and might be found anywhere from the Milwaukee River through Illinois. North of, my mouse went somewhere. Through Illinois, north of, north and east of the Sauks, Foxes, and the Kickapoos. Also in northern Michigan and in the Wabash region, the Winnebagos resided west of Lake Michigan in the region of Wisconsin Rock and the Fox Rivers. In 788, they were spoken of as living on a small island near the eastern end of Lake Winnebago. So this sounds like the Caribbeans. The Wyandot or Huron remnant of the old Huron tribe, conquered by the Iroquois, lived in the vicinity of Detroit and Sandusky and claimed most of the Ohio Territory. They also insisted upon the right of lighting the council fire at all the intertribunal councils. They were loyal supporters of the British interest. The survivors of the old Illinois groups lived around the French villages in western Illinois. The Sauks and Foxes were found in western Illinois and eastern Iowa. A group of renegade Cherokees lived in the territories of the Shawnees. In the same regions, but a little farther east, lived in the Mingos, an outlaw group recruited from the Wyandots, Miamis, Iroquois, and Delawares. The chief southern tribes were the Creeks, the Seminoles, the Cherokees, the Chickasaw, and the Choctaws. The Cherokees, who numbered 12,014 souls, claimed the Allegheny. Oh, dang, did I read this before, or is talking about it again? And the Allegheny regions from the headwater of the Kanawha, almost to the site of Atlanta in Georgia, and from the Blue Ridge to the Cumberland Mountains. Their principal towns were upon the headwaters of the Savannah, Hiawassee, and Tuskegee rivers, and upon the whole course of the Little Tennessee. They were grouped into three settlements known as the Long Towns, the Middle or Valley towns, and the Overhill towns. Inkatah, in the south bank of the Little Tennessee, was commonly considered as the captain of the nation. This tribe was whose territories lay across the path of the western moving stream of population was to clash frequently with the Americans during the period of 774 to 788. The Creeks occupied the greater portion of Alabama and Georgia. Their chief places of residence were on the Cosa and Tallapoosa, Flint, and the Chattahoochee rivers. They claimed territory on the east from the Savannah to the St. Johns River and all the islands hence to Appalachian Bay, and thence northward to the mountains. The Chickasaw, a tribe noted for its bravery, whose chief traded place was near the present site of the city of Memphis, claimed the territory north in the junction of Tennessee and the Ohio rivers, as well as north of the Tennessee to the divide between the Cumberland and the Duck rivers, and north of the line running from the Chickasaw Oldfield to the Mississippi rivers. Very, very interesting. All right, guys, we had a little over two and a half hours. I'm going to end this right here. I appreciate you guys for listening in, and you already know I'm going to try to get, when I have a chance to, any more information out that I can. I hope you guys understood that, the difficulty our people have gone through and that we are still going through. Not that I'm not too concerned about other people, but I just love my people more. I just have to say that. And if we can't get things together for our own people, I'm just like wondering what people gonna really be doing. Yep, Chickasaw, the Chickasaw, by the Chattahoochee rivers. Yes. All right. guys, I want you guys to have a great night. Soar high in your dream tonight. Make sure you are protected, loved, and in good spirits. Wake up tomorrow with something of the same as far as a great day. And we'll do it again tomorrow. All right, guys. Peace, love.